All right, so out on the P drive for this class, there's stuff for Monday. That's that color program that we did. So I've got mine out there. So in case yours didn't work or you want to see if I did it differently, I shouldn't have. And today we're going to work on a calculator. All right, and that calculator, I tried a few of the ones that I found online. I kind of like this one. So this is the one I'm going to have you do. And the good news is, if you say, "Oh, I don't want to do it," you really and truly, I guess, don't have to. But the whole program is right here, and it does work. That's the good news. The bad news is it was created back in like Xcode 4.2. So, for instance, they don't have a storyboard file. They have one of these storyboard.zib files instead. Okay? I tried typing it in today. I just didn't finish, so I have no idea, but you should be able to do it. Let me give you the handout. I'll be right back. What's that? Yeah, we'll get those. Well, if Zane comes, I'll have to just make another copy. That's no biggie one way or the other. I'd like to go over the stuff that I just gave you the copy of, so I do have another copy of it here, no pun intended, but I got to remember where I put it. That's it there. That's not it. I don't know what I did with my copy, so I'm going to quickly regenerate it. All right, so what I just basically, as I said, just kind of regenerated here is the same thing that I gave you a copy of. Should be at least. All right, with this example, just a couple things. First of all, notice what he's done here. He's got nice, well, I don't know if you'd call those rounded, but he's got different buttons. The buttons that you create by default are squared in here. Now, if you turn to the very last page, not the back of the last page, but the last page of the handout that I gave you, I added something in there. You can see because I did it in kind of like how I am, a little bit off kilter. All right? And there is a YouTube video there that's 2 minutes and 51 seconds long that if you want to go through it for 2 minutes and 51 seconds, the author shows you how you can create buttons that are around it. All right? And if you say, but here, then don't do it. It's okay. But the difference is then all of your buttons that they have here are going to be squared instead of rounded. Now, I'm not this guy. You know that. In fact, his name is, I don't even remember what the heck his name is, but it's some, yeah, Deepak Keswani. Okay? I know. You look at me and you think you look like a Deepak Keswani, but I'm not. All right? And I can't explain to you exactly why he did certain things, such as he's got 3 places up here for buttons that he hasn't put anything in. See that? Right now, and there's one down here too. Right now, the calculator, if you key it in the way he has it, does not provide for fractions. Did you hear what I said? It doesn't handle fractions. It wouldn't take that much to make it handle fractions, but it doesn't handle fractions. It's a simple 4-function calculator. All right? And when I did mine, I didn't like the order of his buttons, so I put the add here, then the subtract, then the multiply, then the divide. And I didn't use an X, I used an asterisk. So you can do whatever you want to do with this. All right? Again, his works, and I brought his up. The folder that I put out there on the system, I brought that up on the machine here, and it worked just fine. All right? So he says, start up Xcode and choose a single view application. You know the drill by now. Then he comes in and says, create all the buttons that you basically are going to use in here. So again, I'd like you to try this today. And if you don't want to put in these 3 buttons here, or this one down here, then don't. It's fine. If you want to put them in and not make them do anything, also fine. All right? His program does look like this when you run it, just so you know. Mine doesn't look anything like this when you run it, because I didn't do the white background color, etc. Okay? I just, like I said, I started on it this morning. I tried another one that I'd found online, and I made some changes to it. I just didn't like it. It worked with a bunch of stuff we haven't talked about yet. That's why I didn't want to go through it with you. I just thought it would be more confusing than helpful. All right, so he tells you to do all this, and then basically what he says, come on, page layout, orientation, landscape, there we go. So again, this is what you are designed to be building. Do the single view. You come in here, create those buttons, create the text field. So again, does this make sense to everyone? When you count, if you do a count here, 1 text field, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 buttons. All right? The thing about this project that's the least fun is literally grabbing that control key and dragging all 20 times. You know that we did that the other day? Okay? And if I did it, and I'm semi-arthritic in both hands, you should be able to do it. So this is what he called them. Literally, when you create them, he calls them, I'm going to show you this here. He calls them button 1, button 2, button 3, button 4, etc. And for some reason, he doesn't have all of his code in here. Notice he's got plus button and he's got equals button. Everybody see that? He doesn't have minus button. He doesn't have multiply button. He doesn't have divide button. So he doesn't put them in there. Yet when he comes down later and he goes through his code, they have basically magically appeared. All right? It's like I said, it's 9 pages or so, 10 or 11 pages. I guess it was 11 pages, the whole thing. But I'd like you to try this because you're given steps to follow. All right? You're given names that you should use. If you don't like to use those names, you don't have to, but I recommend you use those names because that's what he uses in his code. And because that's what I did. All right, just so you know, I didn't like his names. I thought, let's be standard. So if we're going to call them button 0, button 1, button 2, all the way through button 9, then let's call them button plus, button minus, button times, and button divide. And that was fine until I got to the code. All right, and I started putting stuff in. Then, no, I got to change that. No, I got to change that, etc. And I screwed up. The other thing that he does right here when you look at this, because this is different than what we did the other day, he manually, everybody hear that word? Manually comes in and keys in all of this stuff. All of this here and all of this here. And I thought, well, he shouldn't have done that. He shouldn't have manually gone and keyed those in. So what I did was what we did the other day. Again, when I did the control drag, the problem is he wants an IB action, and I made an IB outlet. And they don't communicate very well with one another. So when I ran the program, the interface looked just fine. If you don't believe I did it, you could all come up later and look at the interface. You know, that looked just fine. The only problem is it didn't work. All right, so I recommend that you put in his code. You don't need the blank lines here like he's got them. All right, but put in the code the way that he has it. Again, I would come in here and I would add, I would do this. I would put in, and this is not on your handout that you've got, but I would put in here. So I would add, you've got a plus, you've got a, I think it's, he calls it minus. I think he calls the other one multiply. And I believe he calls the last one divide. So I'd recommend that you add those 3 lines that you see right, yeah, I'm trying to just highlight those, right there, all right? And I'll put them in a different color, all right, so you can see them. I was going to say a little better, but maybe I made it worse. Let's give them a darker color and mold it. So I'd recommend that you put in those 3 lines, all right? And then he gives you some code. I'm not going to talk about the code today. I'm going to let you try to key in the code. Now, please look at this. Look at the screen. Don't look at me or anything. It's definitely not worth looking at me, but look at the screen. Because notice what he does here. He's got button 1, button 2, button 3, all the way through button 0. So there's 10 of these. Everybody agree with that? Notice that the code is virtually the identical every time. The only thing that's different is that number. Everybody see that? So if you actually go out to the site and you've got the hyperlink up there, feel free to do it the way he did it, because that's the way that I did it. I took his code verbatim. But one of the first people who commented on his article at the bottom said, Deepak, you know, great program. However, if you write a routine like this, you can write one routine and call it 9 times. See what I'm saying? So you got your choice. You can do it either way. Okay? You might say, well, that's more code. It's really and truly not. Okay? And then when you get done keying in the code, it's what I just mentioned to you. Then you've got to go in and literally, you're going to have 20 buttons here. So when this comes up, the same way we did it the other day, when you clicked on the view controller, you went over to the connection inspector, you clicked on that dot and you dragged over to here, for example, that's what you got to do 20 times. All right? And if you do that, it should work. So I'm going to give you some time to look at that, key that in, and ideally at least get it to work. Again, starting next Monday, we're going to be working on the same project in both classes. We're going to write this simple tip calculator, and we're going to write it both in Android, all right, and that'll start on Tuesday, and we're going to write it in iOS, and that'll start on Monday. So hopefully what you'll be able to do, and we should be able to finish all of it within, it'll either take 1 or 2 weeks. I'm not going to be in any kind of hurry to finish it, really. All right, but we're going to do that. And then I'll ask you, how did that work? Because then if you want, we can do another project in both. Because I've got 3 or 4 or 5 projects that are written in both languages. And if you say, no, I'd rather do something else in one, you know, one in one and one, and we can do that too. All right? So I'll kind of leave it up to you as far as where we go after that. What I'm asking you to do, does it make sense? All right? Then I'm going to stop taping and I'm going to go out and I'm going to get the machines for everybody right now. The only one I won't bring out, did Mike leave? All right, I'll get his out there too then. All right.